Aloha. Today with this video, I wanted to share with people just some of the ways that flat Earth very generally has kind of affected my life or my perspective. And I wanted to start the video off with the perspective of like how people really don't believe in the mainstream media. They know they're like just systems or people and corporations that are just paid to lie to people, and then that becomes people's truth. So once people start seeing their bullshit, then they start disassembling the entire universe that truth was the infrastructure of. So their theories that they call facts, like the Big Bang and gravity, all this stuff it's not the way things are. Like if a kid wanted to eat fast food every day for the rest of their life, you would say something about that. Like you would say, hey, like that's probably gonna, even if you weren't the parents, you'd say like that's probably not a good idea. At some point it's going to start to affect your health, and something should be done about that. So this can be anything from actually physically harming themselves or psychologically harming themselves. So believing yourself into a universe that is pretty much like a fairy tale, or a fairy tale that will put people to sleep in that universe, so they will dream in that universe. So the same way you can see yourself being pissed off because you had a dream where you were right back at work. Like you've had those dreams before where you're in a dream, and like this used to happen a lot when I worked at Home Depot. You have a dream, you be at work, and then you wake up and you gotta go to work. How many hours is that? You don't get paid for it. But something does, like energetically, something does get paid for that energy, because that's a whole world. Whatever it is, that energy exists somewhere. Yes, it's going to be relating to helping you see something from a different perspective, and it's just using that style of dream to tell that story, just like a person existing or a story that's lasted forever. Just like the unspeakable stuff, the stuff you can't put to language, the stuff like you can't say what love is, you can't say what, certain feelings are, or people. Like you can't explain somebody in a couple of paragraphs or a sentence or something like that. Like you can't. It's more than that. But some people get by with just being like a C average of the prepositioned tongue of this universe, this English language, with a side serving of scientism as the religion for this universe. once I started to see like how all of these pieces were being fit together, it was easy to like break a lot of the old heavy programs that existed. That it answered a lot of questions by removing a lot of questions. So that's one way that it helps you see things. It also answers a lot of questions by creating a space where those questions don't even need to, they don't even need to be there, because of your confirmations of that whole world, that whole, like, you're basically tossing an entire world out of your consciousness. You just imagine, like, for people who still have the old school computers of the recycling bin, they probably still got recycling. I don't know. Yeah, you still got a recycling bin. But just imagine, like, never emptying that recycling bin. You put all this stuff in there, but you don't get it off of your world. So eventually that information's going to fill up and then overtake your entire world, and your computer won't even be able to function because all of its weight has been cast into the world of the recycling bin, where you can't just throw it away. You have to actually do something with it. It's not, recycling bin is another analogy for like your closet, putting something up there in the closet or something like that. Like, the thing that I wanted to say earlier about when I was talking about the mainstream media is that, like, it's kind of messed up. That's like the lightest way to put it, but it's without using any words that are going to express how intense this is to be feeling in this whole world. Like, this world has developed an entire universe that they have said is unquestionable. All of their theories are just so much of a fact that you can't even have a discussion with them. You can't question their position. That had already made sense to me from just understanding how the government or the so-called powers that be have ruled over people for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, hundreds of years, that are actually documentable, where people can actually see a lot of the information. That's why I share a lot of this historic information in reference to the things that were going on in society, that it's not out there to be shared as, oh, let's talk about racism. No, it's out there to be presenting a perspective that affects people psychologically, spiritually, and very much so physically, with the way we understand that inner cities, or they're designed to be low income, they're designed to be struggling. Like, these are truths that can't even be spoken about. Like, they won't even entertain this conversation, the so-called they. Like the mainstream media, like I was explaining before, they have an actual write-up of what they want to talk about. Like it's different than, obviously, like with this channel. This channel, I have a general idea of some topics that I would like to address, and they kind of fit together, and then I'll have like a whole bunch of those going around to where all of these make kind of sense because they're all parts of the same world, the same program. So, and each day that goes by, or each video that I share, or each thing that I research, adds to all of those different perspectives that are all over the place. And each time there's a new set of ideas that make sense. I can already see like how I've expressed this kind of idea in the past, and it's basically like a freestyle of whatever these topics are, because usually they will be relating to, in some kind of way, for many different people, what's going on in either their world or definitely the mainstream media. So a lot of people will be able to understand some of the topics or the perspectives I'm coming from if they already understand, for example, the language of the mainstream media. They understand English, they understand the mainstream media language, they understand like my age group, my experience, my life in whatever kind of way. There's different ways that different people see me, and I see how they see me, and I see how I see them, and then how we communicate. Like for people you're close with, like brothers and sisters, or your mother and your father, or just people who really know you. So some people who are really close, you guys actually speak another language, a deeper language, which is some people, and a lot of people, literally, there's a lot of things that are even unspoken. So that's a higher intelligence language, to where you can understand that English it can't shake a stick at what is the natural language, which is just communicating without words, that's the depth of what those words like love and all that other stuff is. It kind of just kills it. When you solidify it like that, when they make all these diamond commercials with love and all this, they're just in burgers, selling burgers with love, and it's weird. But it's on purpose, because that's the way the system is designed, to maintain that particular level of consciousness. Because if you maintain that happy meal layer of consciousness, people will be happy and they won't ask any questions because they're happy. So once people, get fed up with the happy meal, then they move into the extra value meals and stuff like that. And then they have an illusion of choice. And the choices are presented by the mainstream media. The thing is that the seriousness of that is the choices is what we understand is our truth of our existence. The stuff that's basically taboo. Like you can't even talk about a lot of these things. Like how many people, there's millions of people who are looking at 9/11 from a particular angle. And the government literally is on trial. That's the thing. The whole government, the whole system, the whole Western civilization. You want to ask me, it's the whole Western so-called civilization that's on trial right now for so many crimes against every natural law, so many universal laws, and even more so inhumanities. I mean, on every single layer. That's why this system has to be so extreme with selling you a universe that's completely made up. So that's kind of like, I guess, the introduction of how flat earth has affected me and my perspective, my world, my relationships. So you can see with how that kind of like rewires you critically, like to activate the critical thought process. Whereas before, it wasn't really, your thought wasn't really based upon any kind of critical nature. It was based upon memorizing, like just memorizing for tests. The whole education system, the way it's designed, it's just based upon memorizing. That's all it is. That's not really smart. That's like commercial smart, if you can just remember a lot of things. But reality is more complex than that. So every single relationship is affected. All the relationships are affected because you yourself are not in the same world. You're completely seeing your reality from a deeper perspective, or a deeper perspective. But wanted to really focus on, like, without getting too deep into anybody's, or as far away from my own belief system as possible. We keep it very general as possible. Like a lot of belief systems just fall apart. A lot of illusions just fall apart. A lot of attachments get detached. A lot of expectations, which are based upon belief systems, and all that stuff kind of like crumbles because it's not a part of you anymore. It was a part of something else. It's kind of like having a DVD wall full of all the Universe series, all the History Channel, Ancient Aliens on DVD or VHS, and all of the National Geographic and all that mind control program. Just think about all that stuff still exists. This is why there's such a push to get everything on a cloud, to get everything digital, because people, when you look at a wall full of DVDs and VHS, you can literally see each solid piece of mind control. It has its own sleeve. Even the Disney movies had the little clamshells, like it was a different thing. It was softer, it was bigger, it was meant for like a kid to even drop all over the place. It's never gonna hurt the VHS. It's just like a impenetrable plastic shield of Disney protection to protect that mind control cassette tape. And there was thousands of them. I mean, people still have these walls full of that stuff, but you can actually see it. The thing is, when it's not in your house anymore, when it's removed from your reality, literally, physically, something changes. It's not like constantly in your face, because that's another programming, like advertising, marketing, commercialism, and so on and so forth. Actually having it in your house is kind of like sending you microwaves of fast food every moment of the day to your subconscious. You're just constantly, you're programming yourself with all these movies, and social media is doing this, and like everything that surrounds you. I'm looking at a blank wall right now, just as I'm thinking about all the other walls that are surrounded and used to be like bookshelves of video cassette tapes and books, like all the books that huge bookshelves with just complete mind control. Like in our house, we had a lot of movies, but we also had a lot of nature stuff. So there was a lot of like National Geographic. There was a lot of National Geographic, the Nova channel, nature channels. And in that all stuff, space stuff, like just kind of like all that natural book stuff, and mixed in with all of those are like all the dinosaur books, and then you can see all the the NASA books and the evolution books, like all these. That's a solid so the point is that yes, it's mind controlling you, but only like static electricity. It's like basically nothing until you pick it up and grab it and it becomes something. That's why books are so powerful when they are being used. But now that everything like that is being phased out, you basically have no taking the books out of the house is like taking the culture out of people. So since everybody now is connected to their smartphone or their laptop or their tablet or whatever, since everybody is connected to something that gives them their directions, gives them their messages, gives them their everything, you're going to have a lot of culture in quotation marks, but mostly it's just energy. Intelligent energy being removed from the people because the commercial version of intelligence has placed itself into your reality as the governor or the filter. That's what all this censorship stuff is, and fake news, and they have to address it in some kind of way. This is why Trump is talking about this fake news. Literally, like, think about that. The president of the United States is like saying there's fake news out there. Like, if that was like explained however many years ago, it'd be a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal now, but only because people are. It's not a big deal because people are making fun of it. But that's a pretty big deal. And it really does hit the subconscious pretty hardcore when you understand that that's basically the so-called leader of the free world telling you that truth doesn't exist. That's what fake news is. Like, truth doesn't exist. So basically that world is totally like beyond compromise. It's built on that infrastructure of mind control. So it's not the CIA in the mainstream media. It's the mainstream media is an entire mechanism that locks the whole world down, inside and out. So this is why basically this world is like, that's why people perceive this place as the upside down. So a lot of people see this, like when people are watching Stranger Things, there's no difference between the upside down and the place they see in the regular everyday when they're running around riding the bikes and stuff. Like, it's both one world. This stuff happens at night. This stuff happens where you don't see it. It's in your dreams. It's affecting your subconscious reality. So the upside down is not somewhere else. The upside down is here, and it exists just underneath the frequency of what the mainstream media is talking about to maintain this destruction, which allows the system in the non-physical to exist from the perspective of like the upside down. Like, when people who are getting their entire lands taken away, and that like the people who are living down in the rivers in the Amazon being taken out by those loggers, like entire groups of people are being taken out. Like, still, like, this is still going on because of the systems that were put in place by the people who did it hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Like, all this information is, yeah. So basically, the entire world that has presented itself to be Lord, King, and God over you is a fraud. All of it. I could see this from the inside out when I was in the army, right out of high school. You can see the indoctrination. I was like, I can see what you're trying to do to all these people. I see how it affects people. It's not going to affect me that way. And this is where they try to break people. And this is where people get in the military and then they just get, they become something different. Because they have nothing, there's nothing solid to grasp onto other than the artificial values that are given to the soldiers by the military, where the system itself is not even acknowledging the essence of those values. In fact, the entire system, this entire Western world is based upon just making Happy Meal values, just something to sound good, something to sell some mixtapes or something, something to sell, another distraction, another profit making scheme. That's what the mainstream media is. So that's another way, like, this whole, I'm watching the time now. I'm trying to probably keep this short, like at 30 or less. How this has affected me is on every level, on every layer. And it's all for the better, because you're just perceiving more of your reality because you have less. That's the biggest help that I've seen with, like, after a few years have passed now, having not been a part of that world, and then having been on the other side looking at it and seeing it grow in one way and crumble in many different ways. And that density, that weight no longer is in my chest, on my shoulders, like on my anything like that, because you can see how that world has been living in so many different ways for so many years. And it's not any one thing, which is what the system wants you to focus on, a one thing, like a one thing of your reality, so they can make a superhero off of that one topic. You have a villain and a superhero and an idea, and then, boom, they play both sides of the war, and then you make a superhero and you sell ideas to people based upon whatever people were programmed by or with when they were emotionally triggered, when their emotional bodies were triggered by the information. So the information hits them, it opens them up, and then they're just like, oh, somebody tell me something, somebody, and then the mainstream media is there like a mother or a father, and they just, oh, it's okay, and then they pump in when you're in that vulnerable state, because that's what 9/11 was. That's what all wars do. When you're in that state, you're open, and then they bombard you with all of this mind control programming. Same thing goes for children when they're young. They're thrown into school. They're open because they don't have anything else. They don't have any structure around them. So that's what the school system is designed to do, is to take advantage of their openness and indoctrinate them into a world where they will never ask any questions. They will never question authority. They will never look to expand their consciousness, because their entire world will be based upon memorizing information or regurgitating information or looking a certain, presenting themselves, but not really having to express themselves with any kind of character or depth. It's just whatever kind of suit you're wearing. Your social media platform is your suit. So people present themselves as such, but a lot of people are really hurting and broken, and it's really living in like Alice in Wonderland. It's another world. It really is. You got a lot of people out there who are going through a lot of stuff. They're going through a lot of stuff. On top of all that's the main reason why a lot of people can't look into this information, because they're already going through enough on their own. So things are hard enough, let alone having to ask and answer questions about the damn earth. I ain't got time for that shit. Like, I'm going grocery shopping, man. I'm just trying to find where the oyster mushrooms are. Like, where's everything else? So yeah, this whole world is there's a lot of work to do. So that's why like I'm not even scratching the surface with this channel. Like, there might be 700 something videos on this channel, but I'm not even scratching the surface, because a lot of the energy that I'm focusing on is going towards interpreting information that a lot of people already are pretty much understanding. Like, that's why I was saying, like, this is when they hold that line of truth, even truth being taboo, any kind of information being taboo. It's taboo because they created that world. Like, the mainstream media exists for the politics. The politics exists for the government. The government exists for control over everybody in their one little location. There's a whole bunch of other systems that did the same thing, and each system developed mind control programs in particular languages based upon where they were existing and what resources they had and what happened in their history and what's going on all over the place in reference to their worlds. So once that has been established full throttle, where are they going to go next? They have their land, they have their mind control, they have their resources, they have the mind control for the future. They have a whole bunch of different areas of where they can go or what they could do. And they can do one of those things at one time, and they can spread that out 5 years. And that can set the next platform for something else to be created or seeded into society. And this is how the society is working. It's basically like creating your dream world. Like, imagine if you were in a dream and then the government was controlling your dreams. Like, how would that world feel? Well, it's the waking space. It's what's going on right now with colonialism and all the fiat currency system, the legal name programming, the maritime admiralty system. Like, all of this information is dominating your dream that is reality, the awakened reality. It's easier for me to explain it from dream perspectives, because I know like being able to fly in dreams, you can feel a lot more of yourself in dreams because your body it's not there. So you can feel more by like it's kind of hard to explain. You can feel yourself more when you're focused more on being engaged in the dream. So when you take those perspectives into the waking space and use those perspectives to explain something like how the government controls your entire reality by mind controlling you with the ideas of truth that in many ways are not true at all. They exist to keep you thinking and acting a certain way. And then they just do it over and over and over again in a different way. And heliocentrism was one of those ways. And it was easy to see once I was introduced to it. And then because I had done so much work looking at all the other information that was also a lie, and just like all the treaties that were broken, this entire land, all of this land would be completely different if any of those treaties were honored. Over 500 were completely broken or nullified or just forgotten or whatever. If one or two of them, there could have been like thriving, all kinds of places, like cities of entire states. Like, but that's what like the reservations program did, and the Trail of Tears and all that other stuff. It's just, this is not so much for a physical enslavement, it's more for a psychological enslavement. And that's what heliocentrism is centered on, how I see it. And once you see that, it's going to affect you on so many different levels, in so many different ways. And I could go on and on and on with those ways, but I'll go into a little more detail from this, because I didn't really go into what I wanted to get into with this video. But I think this video is good enough for now as an introduction to, I know somebody asked, I can't remember who it was though, asked to like do a video for people who are being introduced to flat earth, or so I figured this would be like a way to share like a personal perspective rather than all the information from the memes and stuff. But just like my own experience and how it's existing and relating to all this other, the information that I've shared on this channel, and the information that I haven't shared and yet that I'm not even aware of, because a lot, that's what, like I clear my canvas once I finish a video and I start over, and I'm just like, all right, well, sometimes I won't think of anything at all because I'm not really thinking of anything. I'm just like feeling out. I'll listen to the video and feel out like, oh, I wish I would have talked about that, or I could talk about this a little bit more. I get new ideas from the video sometimes, new ideas from people who leave comments and all kinds of stuff. And then when a lot of the videos or some of the videos catch a little tread, or a lot of people like them, like the Neil deGrasse one, the compilation, and just some other ones, and kind of sometimes it influences what I'm going to do. Like I think somebody left a comment and reminded me of the video, the mashup of Neil deGrasse Tyson. I can't remember who that was, but thank you for that, who left a comment there about how good that video was, and I remembered that. I've been wanting to piece those together. So yeah, this is it's a good time to start asking asking questions of something new. This is for many people a beginning time frame, and something new is going on. change. There's a lot of change that's going on, especially like, because I explained it in previous videos. I don't. I just said I was gonna stop the video. I am after this. I forgot what I was gonna talk about. As I sat there thinking, what the hell was I talking about? I wondered whether or not I even wanted to finish the video or just sit here quietly and then just let this time be. But later on, when I was editing the video, I decided to layer in this audio because I'm not doing anything anyway. Look at me just walking away, going to get some water. There's nothing going on there. But I did remember what I was going to talk about, what I forgot about talking about, and that was the shifting of people's consciousness based upon particular times, particular storylines, and all kinds of other things that affect us. So in previous videos, I was talking about how heliocentrism locks down even your relationship to time. So time locks down your relationship to the expansion of consciousness through that time. And the way the calendar is, the way the clock is, the way society is designed, the Western civilization celebrating 4th of July and all these other things that are going on. Thanksgiving Day, Christopher Columbus Day, Christmas. Like, these all affect the way consciousness expands or contracts, one or the other. It's based upon expansion or contraction, because expansion of consciousness means smarter people, which means more accountability of the system, which the system doesn't want, which is why the education system is so jacked up. So what I was getting ready to speak on was anytime, and I feel this, and I've said this in previous videos, anytime there's like a full moon or a new moon or a new month or a new season of the year, from spring to summer to fall to winter, there's a shift in your bodies. So you can understand, like, people have understood that every 7 years the cells in your body reproduce or whatever. But what I'm saying is that, what are like your spiritual cells? Like, how often do they reproduce? And it's based upon each experience, each moment, each thought, each emotion, and each time frame that's going on within your reality. So the reality, as we just experienced, was the so-called New Year, but a lot of people already know that's not. This is the Gregorian calendar that came from another calendar that was just bogus in the first place, and none of this stuff really like relates to you on a spiritual level. So everything is a lie in a sense, but the natural progression of who and what you are isn't a lie. See, look, I still can't remember it. So the lie is affecting the way you perceive your reality, the way you grow, the way you raise your children. And a lot of the times, given our situation, we miss out on a lot of opportunities that only happen based upon certain locations of the stars, the sun, the moon, or what's going on in the non-physical and the physical, that we're not privy to that information because it doesn't matter in reference to the so-called hard science community or scientism. That's the only thing that matters in this reality, is what people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, and Michio Kaku say. Excuse me. So, point being, to close it out, every month there's a shift. Every season there's a shift. Every experience there's a shift. And it has something to do with the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth itself, and the people. We don't even know what that is. We don't know how the stars affect us. We can explain it astrologically and kind of start seeing things, but excuse me, that's still kind of like taboo. People aren't really going into that. But it does have some kind of effect on us in some kind of way. It's different for everybody, but it's particular to us for a reason. So the way the sun is moving, what's going on with the moon, full moon, quarter moon, new moon. I've explained this to people, and people can verify this too. Certain moons, I eat a lot. Like certain moons, I'm eating a lot, and then I gotta be outside. And then some moons, I'm not eating at all, and I stay inside. Some full moons in particular. Sometimes it happens during the new moon, but it's mostly like noticeably in the full moon. So on a full moon, I'll end up outside. I'll be chilling for days and then just doing my thing, being in my groove, not even paying attention to what the moon is doing or anything. And then all of a sudden at night, I'll get this urge to just go outside, at least just go for a walk or go get some dinner or something, and just to be outside. And then I'll notice, oh, it's a full moon. That's happened a lot since I started to pay attention in the last few years. It's happened to me a lot. And this is just another confirmation of our relationship to the experience itself. So the same kind of thing is in reference to, not, I wouldn't say directly related, like it's like the science community says, oh, well, the moon is pulling gravity and all this other stuff, and it affects like women's cycles, and men have cycles too. And then, but it's not as simple as the moon doing this and that's it. No, it's a relationship between the sun, the moon, and the earth, and you, and what's going on, and how you're going to adjust in those moments. Whether or not you're gonna integrate the energy or not. So you have the sun that appears to be moving, doing something. The moon is obviously changing phases. It affects the body in some kind of way. We're not allowed to question any of this stuff because the university system says that it's all good. That's it. Why I'm saying it is that they take that approach is because that's another way to knock you out of balance. You're out of balance with nature. You're out of balance with yourself, and then out of balance with each other. So when that happens, that benefits the system in a sense that you perceive whatever's going on as a sickness or violence. A lot of the times, so full moons make people violent. Some people, it affects people emotionally in some kind of way. So there's no like study of this that is outside of the university system that, I mean, I'm sure there's books been written on this stuff, but my main point is that it's not mainstream. It's basically taboo. It's just looked at by the so-called science community as fringe and whatever. It's they don't acknowledge it as real. Same way they don't acknowledge holistic healing or any of that like real. Same way they criminalize cannabis. So what did I write down here? Things shift over the months. Each shift is dropping weight, dropping density, or it has like drop off points, and you have the opportunity to drop off that density. If you don't, it actually gets heavier as time goes on, as your experience goes on. These phases, these shifts, this is kind of like having a cold or getting a cold or something like that. Like we just see it, oh, I'm sick, whatever. But actually your body is like, this is why you produce so much mucus, you produce so much like things, because you're actually getting rid of a lot of toxins in your body. So the same thing's happening non-physically, like spiritually, like spiritual toxins are being removed from our bodies during these cycles. And we don't know what's going on because we got the kindergarten version of this universe at best, because the version of the universe that we understand is not even real. It's some made up garbage. So that's basically what I wanted to share to close this video out, and what I was thinking about in reference to the new time frame. So the new year, even though this year in the calendar and the time is all full of shit, it still affects people in a way. Like, it's still in the consciousness. You know, people are going to the gym. You know, it's a new beginning. They release all that density, the weight that they've been carrying on for a whole year. Like 12 months of density is no longer on their shoulders. It's a fresh start. Like, whatever it's not like dumping it in a sense, but what happens is inherently stuff gets dumped. Like, you don't need it anymore. You're not carrying that world around anymore, and you can actually move on. So a lot of people have their hopes up. They have a lot of there's a lot of potential change for the better that's in front of us, rather than having the year behind you. It's a different kind of reality. When you have the year in front of you, you have a responsibility, you have hope, you have work, change is there. But then it just gets locked down by all these holidays and all these other things that just suck you right back into the reality and densify the reality. So yeah, the point was that when the new year or anything like this kicks over, it's an opportunity to learn something new, to do something new, to be something more. Not in a sense of you're not enough now. It's just a challenge or an opportunity to challenge yourself to be something more. Otherwise, you'll just become stagnant, which is what the system wants. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to share in that last point, and to lock it all in with everything else. Entertaining, or at least researching some parts of the not globe Earth or the flat Earth helps you do a lot of that processing, a lot of that clearing, a lot of that density release, because you're removing not only psychological toxins from your reality, but you're removing spiritual toxins, physical toxins, and in that space, you're allowing more space for something that's whatever the opposite of toxins are. So the opposite of toxins in reference to like being closer to nature, being closer to the experience, understanding that there's a meaning and purpose here. So that's what I would explain as the opposite of what toxins are. It's like hopeful connections that relate to expansion rather than contraction, where toxins are designed to contract, install disease, and just weigh you down. So that's probably like the main thing that happens that I've realized in reference to looking into flat earth information, is it allows you to do that. And the main thing that I'm saying is that once you start doing that, the idea of flat earth itself doesn't matter anymore. It's not about the experience, the wall, the ice wall, and this and that. I mean, that's, and not to say that stuff doesn't matter, but from my perspective, the experience, or the density that gets released from that reality, and the potential that you have to tap into something more with a meaning and a purpose, it completely overshadows any of the flat versus globe sort of mentalities. That's just like the kindergarten part of flat earth. The rest is like the responsibility that you have to understand what's going on here, understand, and understand what's going on. Once you get into that, See, flat versus globe is mostly used as a trigger mechanism to help people at least research the information. That's why it's so big right now, because it's still kind of like in the beginning. But for people who have been doing this or researching this information, because a lot of channels get like kind of repetitive, like they just start talking about, you know, different proofs or whatever, like over and over and over again, trying to convince who. Like I can see like it's good to make new videos to update older information and, you know, show a newer version of what you're talking about. I do the same thing on my channel. What I'm saying is that you don't only have to do like that one thing, have that one perspective. We tend to follow that one perspective because it's hip, you know, it's received well by people, and as opposed to personal information or societal or cultural information that's not really comfortable for a lot of people, but it does a lot to help people see something that they've never seen before, possibly, in reference to the same topic that you were talking about with flat versus globe. So that's where I'm coming from with this channel. That's where I'm coming from with this information. And hopefully over time, I'll get more refined in expressing myself and explaining where I'm coming from that perspective. And hopefully people will see what's going on there and start doing that even more so themselves, because I see it personally, like it's affected me greatly, like for the better. Just looking into the information and saying, okay, well, I have a lot of work to do. Like I have to remove a lot of the old information. And that's kind of like when people are faced with flat earth, they look into debunking it. And that could be related to, like I was explaining, what the toxins are. So they have to debunk those toxins out of their body. So they use flat earth as a buffer or some kind of reflection to show you how it's not so-called flat earth that's the toxin. It's you, your thoughts, the indoctrination, the mind control programs, the conditioning from this so-called Western civilization, this so-called new world, the conditioning, the programs from that place that maintains slavery. That's the toxin. Those are the toxins. But we have to externalize that reality to see it, because you can't see toxins when they're inside of you, because that's you. It's kind of like clapping, like Alan Watts says, clapping with one hand. Or it's something that you can't do. Like it's anyway, you know what I'm saying. And what happens is when you start researching this information, it allows you to do more with what you have and who you are, because you're more of what you have and who you are by not being bombarded and locked down by all the toxic programs of the mainstream reality. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share for this like introduction or explanation of, you know, how flat earth has affected me. There's so many ways I could do a whole series on this. I might actually just keep going and make more videos like this. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section and see what comes up next. But thank you for the individual who asked for this video. Thank you to all the subscribers and the viewers for supporting this channel. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.